You're listening to the Daily Sales Tips podcast, and I'm your host, Scott Ingram. Today's tip is a clip from my round 2 bonus episode conversation with Brandon Fluharty on the Sales Success Stories podcast. When I first interviewed Brandon, who's in an enterprise sales role at LivePerson for episode 85 of the podcast, he'd sold $11 million in annual recurring revenue in the previous 2 years. In this updated interview, he talks about how he's sold $13.4 million in ARR in just the last 5 months. Here's a sample for you.
We really geeked out on, the concept of treating ourselves like professional athletes. I've always believed in that in sales. We geeked out on some productivity stuff. And so I doubled down on those things, really started tracking some non-common sales metrics. So my sleep, hours of sleep. And I was getting that from a wearable called Whoop. And I've since added Aura Ring who track similar metrics. The quality of my sleep, the sleep debt, which I measured through an app called Rise. So it was really front and center for me of understanding, hey, when I am less than 3 hours of sleep debt. And I started, when I first started using the app, I was, 13 hours of sleep debt. Crazy. And I think would be common for a lot of people. We get accustomed to running, almost getting numb to the fact that we're in constant sleep debt. And we don't really know how much it's affecting us until we start putting a spotlight on it and becoming a bit more aware of it. So that brought a lot of awareness to me around something that's kind of a really core pillar to my approach now, which is having a foundation of being well rested and sleeping well. And then I started tracking things like how many meetings I was in a day, not in the sense that I wanted to have more meetings so I could sell more deals. It was actually I wanted to start getting out of meetings because I was reading a book at the time by Cal Newport called Deep Work. And that was profoundly insightful for me because what Cal lays out is that if you want to be hyper successful in today's modern knowledge worker era, you need to dedicate time for deep work. And so in this simple Google spreadsheet, I would just sort of track, here's how well rested I am. Here's how I'm sleeping, what my sleep debt is, how many meetings I would be. And I got to a sweet spot, an understanding of no more than 4 hours a day in meetings, because in the other 4 or 5 hours a day, I wanted to dedicate towards going deep with my prospects. And it was sort of necessary in 2020, right? Because we weren't getting the amount of leads we did the previous year. So we had to go out of necessity. I had to go deep. I had to think really creatively for my prospects, think about some really creative ideas that could fundamentally help with their business, especially since I'm selling a transformation. How could they be super smart with their budget? How could I unearth problems they might not be considering? How can I get that business to think about moonshot ideas when it's seemingly impossible? So I was trying to paint the dots, and then the final piece would be just overall how I felt for the day and just my mood, my overall satisfaction. So we kind of look at these tranches of things of my health data, my productivity data, and then my overall satisfaction. And I called it a Thrive score. I wanted to understand what are the trends that make me feel satisfied at the end of each workday, and then building the routines to, let's repeat whatever it is that makes me feel happy and satisfied in my work and also produces good results. And I do it in a way that's not constantly hustling and working. Well, that sounds like utopia to me. And what I learned, it was not about the perfection of it, having the perfect day. It was more about the progress of getting to a perfect day, because since I was tracking it for the past, almost a year now, very rarely have I had a perfect day. But I committed to myself, no, it's not about being perfect every day. It's about the pursuit of that and measuring the progress. And can I take incremental improvements and then bring that in as a steady habit and routine to my day? And it's obviously produced amazing results. 13.4 million in annual recurring revenue in less than 5 months. I'll take it.
For a link to the full interview and to connect with Brandon on LinkedIn, just click over to DailySales.Tips/873. Once you've done that, be sure to come back tomorrow for another great sales tip. Thanks for listening.